So to me, obviously the A&R is a new world in the sense that research is incorporated in every avenue. I feel like that's a part of the A&R job. It's as well as making records, putting songs together, finding talent. But at the same time, you can't eliminate research. I think everyone that's on this panel, for the most part, when they found an act, it came through some type of story, whether it's a real minimal story or whatnot, but it's identifying it at that type of lane. And on the other side, it's still, we're still putting together records. We're still making songs for these artists.
I think it's a little bit of both. Like, obviously the times have changed, but I think you still have to hit the ground running on top of doing your research, on top of if someone that we know hits me up and says, hey, I have this great artist, I'm going to listen to it. Or it could be somebody that I'm walking on the street and I see. I think you have to open it up to everything nowadays versus it just being that one thing. But I think at the end of the day, it all goes back to the number one thing, which is the record. So a record could come from anywhere if it's a hit record. I think it's just we have to have our eyes and our ears open to the streets.
Yeah. I agree upon that. If y'all can hear me, I think it's like, me personally, I think it's two type of A&Rs. I think you got really heavy research driven relationship A&Rs who kind of in the right rooms that could kind of get the beats and stuff. And then you got A&Rs who actually could make records. And I mean, make records is not putting a folder on a computer and say, go through it and pick a beat. I just think a coordinator or an intern could do that. I'm saying actually putting people in a room and critiquing hooks and pushing artists to be better artists. And I think there's a difference between those two type of A&Rs, but they're both necessary in the team. It's like folding like Voltron at times, in my personal opinion.
I would agree. I echo everybody's sentiment. I also think, technology has afforded everyone the opportunity to be able to put music out. So there's a lot of noise, everyone's putting on all the time. I think there was an article that said, Spotify gets a daily ingestion of 42,000 songs from people around the world making music. So at the end of that month, that's a little over 1 million records. So it's hard to kind of like sift through that. But I do think as A&R people, we do have a responsibility to pay attention to the data, be aware of, what's trending and what's, having a viral moment and what's responding on TikTok and all these other platforms that these writers, producers, and artists are using to get their music out, but also relying on that gut instinct. And I do believe, while I feel like it's a lost art, I do think it is important to have artist development and to stay with an artist through every phase, every process that they go through from beginning to end, and ultimately get into that place with them where you're able to break them and have success beyond just one moment or one song.
I think that A&R is even more important today than it's ever been because of technology and because of research and what everybody's saying. Our opinion and our honest input with the songwriters, producers, and artists is even more valuable because they don't need us, right? They can put music out on their own. So the only value we have is our relationship and our opinion and how we make the song better, how do we make the artist better, because they can do it on their own. Whereas, before you couldn't get signed without going through a record label. You couldn't put music out without an A&R and a label helping you put your music out. So now, if you're going to get an artist assigned to you and to your label, you have to really be in the A&R business, which is developing the talent, finding the best songs. And I think what we do on this panel, what everyone on this panel represents, is more important now than it's ever been before because artists don't actually need us. So we have to bring some real value to the table.
Yeah, I think I would agree with everyone's point of view. I think data and research is very important outside of creating the records, which is really, really important, and being in the studio with those guys. And then I also would add that just going with your gut and how it feels and making, like if it feels good, like, go with your gut rather than overthinking it and just doing more than something that feels right as well. So I would add that outside of everything else which everyone mentioned.
Yeah, I was gonna add on too. Yeah. You just gotta go with your gut feeling when you out here too. I mean, data is great and all that, but at the end of the day, a lot of the data stuff don't really like last long. So you got to go with your gut and like what you believe at the end of the day. And that's really how I operate.
Yeah,
I mean,
I
you gotta
agree.
know what to do with the data too. Like once you get it, you can see that, but you still got to know what to do with the artists and how to move them and how to build them up. Because a lot of times you can get it and it's whatever on TikTok, but those numbers need to translate to streams in order for the career to keep rolling. And you got to build an artist and build the world as well.
Absolutely. Like I agree with everybody said. I think one key thing, and I don't know if you guys can agree or disagree. The other thing outside of research and analytics is the team, like the team surrounding the artist. Like in just my like experience, I've watched like artists come in the door. You know, I've signed some with good teams and some that hasn't. And the ones without those teams surrounding them, the right teams, the smart teams, like those fail every time. So I think outside of just research, the talent, the music, like what's the team surrounding the artist? Like, do they have a good manager? You know, because I know we all meet with all different types of artists. And when that team isn't right, like, you know, it just becomes a lot of heavy lifting. So to me, that's the other part that I look at when I'm meeting with the artist, like, you know, what is their team? Because that's who we're going to have to communicate with, you know, to roll out, you know, the songs and projects. So I feel like that's a key thing.
Hey, I think you made a good point, Serge. And I think what's missing today is where's the production companies? Remember back about 10 or 15 years ago, we had production companies that actually developed these artists and knew what they were doing. Just not somebody who had a label and signed a guy in the hood and they go on TikTok. And then I don't know how many of you guys out there get artists and they don't know what to do next. Right? Their team don't know what to do next. They don't know what musically to go. They just cutting records. So I think we need to get back to actually having competent production companies who actually do production company work that'll kind of make our job a little bit more fluid in translating some of these breakout songs, in my opinion.
I totally agree on that, and I'm experiencing that in many different ways with production companies, Fallout or whatnot. But it's also educating them how to do it because they're brand new in this. Yeah, I mean that's
exactly
production team.
Yeah, but I'm sure most of us are dealing with that left and right. You know, I have numerous things where they fall out or whatnot, and it's just teaching them because they don't know. They truly don't know. So it's about us teaching them, and that's a part of the role as well, as they know.
And I think too, guys, like from our position, I can only speak for myself. When I was managing Trey and dealing with Songbook, one thing that I did love about Atlantic Records, and shout out to Julie and Dallas and all those guys over there and Kaiser, they actually kind of gave me my master's degree in management. You know what I mean? And managing a production company. They took the time after the meeting was over to teach me about touring, or this is the way the numbers look, or this is whatever. So I had time to build up that knowledge to know how to manage an artist or to develop an A&R. I don't see a lot of that going on because we're jumping on records and artists so fast the next week that we're not even developing the people that's worthy to develop to move up and to become who we are in 10 years.